probably the biggest Lego fan right here.
Did you guys see that? You liked it, yeah?
He did. He did. We love the Duplo references. He was. What? Do you like Legos, buddy? Did you like the Lego movie? Lego movie. There you go. We got out of it.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Awesome. And he stayed awake for the whole thing?
He stayed awake for the whole thing. He does. He tends to. The previous movie we saw the week before was The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, which he
Uh-huh.
also don't seem to enjoy. So I was impressed that he enjoyed both The Secret Life of Walter Mitty and the
And
Lego movie.
all right. Well, classy kid.
Yeah, yeah, he's classy. He stays classy. So, speaking of
Yes.
the Lego movie,
Yes.
it has really good box office. It beat out Monuments Men, so Clooney can suck it, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is
That
what we're saying.
that sexy, handsome man can totally suck it.
Yeah, totally. All right, so that's awesome. So listen, really quick, just so people understand. Whoops.
Yes.
Just so people understand, how long were you on the movie? What point did you come on in the story, and at what point, how long were you on it? Basically?
I was on the movie for a little over a year, like 13, 14 months, which was kind of like solidly in the middle of production. With the production on this was really short in the realm of most animated movies. It can take, you look at the gap in Pixar movies between when like Toy Story 1 and Toy Story 2 came out, or just like animation takes a really long time, and we cranked this movie out in, I don't know what the official number is, but from start to finish of production, we cranked this out in about 2.5 years. It was less than 3 years. And I was on it for about half that time. So.
Oh, that is pretty awesome. Okay. Well, and actually, speaking of that, you're saying, yeah, like a Pixar movie could take several years, maybe 4 or 5 years, from what I
Mhm.
understand, because they're doing so much ongoing production. But with this, for example, and I'm not 100% sure, I'm sure I'll see it more in the DVD, but how much of it was CGI? How much of it was practical, like stop motion on set? And then not to give away like the sort of anything in the story wise, but I'm saying as far as what what we've seen in the trailers and things like that.
Yeah, the vast majority of it is CG, but it is CG done to look as much like stop motion as possible. The goal with the film was, and as people will see when they see it, is that everything is made out of Legos. The water is bricks. The like flames and explosions is Lego bricks, with the goal being that if you had all the time in the world and all the Lego bricks in the world, you could make this movie in your basement. That said, there were also fan submissions. There was a contest so that people at home could build Lego sets and do their own brick films, and we would incorporate those in the movie. So there is that element also of actual stop motion brick film, a lot of which was submitted by actual fans, which is very cool because there's such a thriving culture of people who make animated Lego films at home. Adults do it, kids do it, everybody does it together. So it's very cool that we got to incorporate that in the movie because it also fits with kind of the theme of free play that we have in the movie.
Right. Yeah, that was one of the things that really struck me. Is I'm sure some of those fan submissions were adults as well, because it's such a vast thing. Kids to adults love Legos, so it's such an interesting thing that I'm sure there were some adults. And having said that, okay, so it was mostly CG, but did you guys have in the office and in the animation stations just tons of sets that you guys were just goofing around with all the time?
Constantly.
Was it really distracting?
Constantly playing with minifigs and with bricks, and we would get sets in like actual Lego sets that we would just mess around with and build. And then what was really cool is a couple of times, at least when I worked in the story department, so I was dealing with like all the storyboards and editing of the animatics and stuff like that before it went into real animation production. But we got to meet with a bunch of master builders who were the people for Lego who actually create the sets, and they came, and they came and showed us like stuff that they were building specifically for the movie. So the Sea Cow Metalbeard's ship, like we actually had a build of that, an early build of that in the office, and we had like early iterations of Metalbeard and early iterations of all the characters, and they were a very big part of helping us design everything, which was really, really cool.
That's awesome. And I think you were telling me, since you were part of the story department and and you worked with the animatics and everything, you were the voice of Wildside before Elizabeth Banks was put in. You were just like the temporary.
Yeah. One of the things that happens in animation is when you're throwing together an animatic, which is basically like edited together storyboards, like everything that happens in animation is kind of backwards from the way that it happens in live action. Like with live action, you write it, then you shoot it, then in post, you start stringing everything together, and you might notice like inconsistencies with the story or plot holes, or if you're like, oh, we set up this joke, but then we never pay it off. In live action, you don't find out until you start editing. In animation, it's kind of backward. You storyboard everything out, you edit it together into what's called an animatic with sound and with temp vocals and everything like that, and you can actually see this kind of skeletal version of what the movie's going to look like, and you can start to see, oh, we set up this joke but we don't pay it off, or like this character doesn't really, their arc doesn't really fit or whatever, and so you can go back and start like reiterating throughout. Because once you start animating, it's very laborious, it's very expensive. So that's the long explanation of usually when you're doing animatics, whoever's in the office does all the temp voices for the characters. So like our editors were Vitruvius and Bad Cop. Our two like little like white skinny 25-year-old editors were Vitruvius and Bad Cop. Like I got to see Wyldstyle, which was very cool. So yeah, we all got to play characters, which was great because it also meant that as the story was developing, it was kind of developing with us, and we got to like kind of have these characters inside us and really know who they were as they were being fully developed in the story.
That is awesome. And now speaking of also of all these characters and things like that, one of the things that it blew me away, and I won't give away some of the surprises, is that there's so many licensed characters. Now we know these characters exist in the Lego universe, but you have like Batman and Ninja Turtles and stuff like that. Like, was somebody in your department pushing, like, let's get these guys in there, or was it just like an edict from above saying, okay, you have to get these random characters? And then again, I won't give away like the sort of surprise characters.
Yeah.
Because I was so surprised.
I think it was a little bit of everything. I think everybody was very excited about the possibility of having different IP characters involved. And it's amazing that Lego has such a trove of these IP characters to draw from, which gave us a lot of like kind of creative license to be like, well, what if this person's in the movie? Or like, what if Superman and Batman can exist in the same world without it being Justice League or whatever? So it was really fun, but I think it was something that everybody kind of agreed on, that this would be a really fun addition to the movie, not just from a filmmaking standpoint, but also so much of the movie is about how kids play. Like, that's very much the storytelling of it, is that, you know, these things can exist in the same world, and that Batman can exist in the same world as a mermaid and as like a graffiti punk and as an old wizard. And so that was kind of the fun of it too, is like, I'm sure when you and Logan play, you know, Batman and Superman are in there with Duplo and are in there with, you know, whatever other crazy characters you just happen to have lying around, because that's what's fun.
Right, yeah, it's something like it reminded me in a twisted way of that South Park episode, the Imagination Land trilogy. Like, kids don't understand, you know, the boundaries of copyright. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And one of the great things about the Lego Movie was able to sort of like leap the boundary of copyright. And I was watching it just in love with the fact that you did that. And it sort of, I don't know, the movie embraced the sort of oddness of that, of playing like that, and that was the message of the movie, and it really floored me. And having said that, now how aware of this were you guys when you were in the office? But you were igniting imagination, in my opinion, and that's what the movie did. It really ignites and it reminds you of the power of your imagination. How aware of that when you were crafting the story were you of that?
Extremely aware. Like it was very much the basis of the story from the beginning. Is that it wanted to be that spirit of kind of unbridled play and unbridled imagination, and really embracing the way that kids play, and that it's, you know, a shame that we don't do that as adults, because kids can just get lost in these amazing worlds of their own creation. And so Phil and Chris McKay, the directors, were very cognizant of that at all times and extended that down to the crew, of just like, if you think something is a good idea, run with it. Very, very open about everything. They're some of the most amazing filmmakers I've ever worked with, because they're just so open and there's no ego about them. If it's a good idea, it's a good idea, and it doesn't matter who it came from, and they're just so open and creative, and really do let that spirit of imagination kind of come through in the movie.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Now, just the last question. Now, you and I have worked on a lot of movies together, and
Yep.
and when you meet a movie star, it's like whatever, you know, movie star. When you meet a crew member such as yourself who has worked on a movie, who really got their hands dirty making such a movie like this, what advice can you pass on to, especially a young animator, a young filmmaker, from this experience? Every project's a learning experience. What was this project's learning experience for you?
Oh man, you're getting deep on me, man.
I did. I'm sorry. You know, you learn something each time.
I would say that the best thing that I learned on this movie is kind of my earlier answer about the way that our directors and our producers ran this movie, is that there was so much love and support amongst the crew, not only for the film that we were creating, but for each other. And I think that really helped us make the best movie we possibly could, because when everybody in the room loves what they do and loves being there and is having such a good time with the material and with the process and with the people that they work with, I think you can't help but get a good product out of that. And you know, you and I have worked with screamers and with crazy people and people who didn't know what they want. And I don't think you know, you may get a finished product out of it, but you may not get a great one. But I think that if you have that kind of love and support, and it really feels like you're working with your friends and you're working with your family, that you can't help but make a good product because you put your heart and soul into it.
Yeah, I agree. So Lizzie, thank you. I appreciate your time. The movie's doing great, and I hope there's a part 2 in in the near future. And thank you for joining us on Marvel in the Morning.
It's been great to see you, Mario.
You as well, Lizzie. I hope to see you soon in person.
Yes, absolutely. And you'll have something coming in the mail from me soon.
Thank you so much.
It's mostly for Logan, but you can.
All right. The theme of the movie. All right. Thanks, Lizzie.